Welcome to your channel, English Proficiency. If you're looking to improve your English skills, you've come to the right place. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to receive the latest videos and updates. Let's start our journey together.
أود أن أقدم نفسي.
I would like to introduce myself. I would like to introduce myself. I would like to introduce myself. I would. I would. I present. I present. Myself. Myself.
هل يمكنك توضيح هذه النقطة؟
Could you please clarify that point? Could you please clarify that point? Could you please clarify that point? Can you clarify the point? The point?
أفهم المفهوم الآن.
I understand the concept now. I understand the concept now. I understand the concept now. I understand. I understand. The concept. The concept. Now. Now.
دعني ألخص ما ناقشناه.
Let me summarize what we discussed. Let me summarize what we discussed. Let me summarize what we discussed. Let me summarize. Summarize. We discussed. We discussed.
أقدر ملاحظاتك.
I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate. I appreciate. Your feedback. Your feedback.
هذا المثال يوضح الفكرة جيدا.
This example illustrates the idea well. This example illustrates the idea well. This example illustrates the idea well. The example. The example. Illustrates. Illustrates. The idea. The idea. Well. Well.
لدي سؤال حول هذا الموضوع.
I have a question about this topic. I have a question about this topic. I have a question about this topic. I have. I have. A question. A question. About. About. The topic. The topic.
لأضعها ببساطة.
To put it simply. To put it simply. To put it simply. To put it. To put it. Simply. Simply.
أرى ما تعني. هذا مثير للاهتمام.
I see what you mean. That's interesting. I see what you mean. That's interesting. I see what you mean. That's interesting. I see. I see. What you mean. What you mean. Interesting. Interesting. To note. To note.
هل يمكنك التوسع في ذلك؟
Can you elaborate on that? Can you elaborate on that? Can you elaborate on that? Can you elaborate?
أود أن أشارك وجهة نظري.
I'd like to share my perspective. I'd like to share my perspective. I'd like to share my perspective. I would like to share my perspective. My perspective. View.
هذا يساعدني على الفهم بشكل أفضل.
This helps me understand better. This helps me understand better. This helps me understand better. It helps me. It helps me. Understand. Better.
أوافق على تقييمك.
I agree with your assessment. 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 With your assessment.
دعنا نستكشف هذه الفكرة أكثر.
Let's explore this idea further. Let's explore this idea further. Let's explore this idea further. Let's explore the idea further.
هل يمكنك إعطائي مزيداً من التفاصيل؟
Can you give me more details? Can you give me more details? Can you give me more details? Can you give me more details?
في رأيي.
In my opinion. In my opinion. In my opinion.
هذه نقطة حاسمة يجب مراعاتها.
This is a crucial point to consider. This is a crucial point to consider. This is a crucial point to consider. A point. Critical. To consider.
أود أن أضيف شيئاً.
I would like to add something. I would like to add something. I would like to add something. I would like to add. Something.
دعنا نفكك ذلك خطوة بخطوة.
Let's break it down step by step. Let's break it down step by step. Let's break it down step by step. Let's break it down. Step by step.
هذا يبدو منطقياً تماماً بالنسبة لي.
That makes perfect sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me. It seems. Logical. Entirely. 4.
دعنا نتأكد أننا في نفس الصفحة.
Let's ensure we're on the same page. Let's ensure we're on the same page. Let's ensure we're on the same page. Let's make sure we're on the same page.
سأكون سعيداً للإجابة على أي أسئلة.
I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I will be happy to answer questions.
هذه هي النقطة الرئيسية التي يجب أخذها بعين الاعتبار.
This is a key takeaway from our session. This is a key takeaway from our session. This is a key takeaway from our session. The point. Main. To take into account. Consideration.
أود أن أكرر نقطتي الرئيسية.
I'd like to reiterate my main point. I'd like to reiterate my main point. I'd like to reiterate my main point. I would like to repeat. My main point. Main.
هذه المناقشة مفيدة.
This discussion is enlightening. This discussion is enlightening. This discussion is enlightening. The discussion is useful.
سألخص النقاط الرئيسية الآن.
I'll summarize the key points now. I'll summarize the key points now. I'll summarize the key points now. I will summarize. The points. Main. Now.
هذا يتماشى مع فهمي.
This aligns with my understanding. This aligns with my understanding. This aligns with my understanding. It aligns with my understanding.
أنا مهتم بسماع آرائك.
I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. I'm interested in hearing your views.
دعنا نختتم مناقشتنا.
Let's wrap up our discussion. Let's wrap up our discussion. Let's wrap up our discussion. We conclude our discussion.
شكراً على آرائك.
Thank you for your insights. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for your insights. Thank you. Thank you. For your insights. For your insights.
هل يمكنك تقديم مثال؟
Could you provide an example? Could you provide an example? Could you provide an example? Can you provide an example? An example?
أعتقد أنه يجب علينا مناقشة هذا أكثر.
I think we should discuss this further. I think we should discuss this further. I think we should discuss this further. I believe. I believe. A discussion. A discussion. More. More.
لتوضيح النقطة السابقة.
To clarify my earlier point. To clarify my earlier point. To clarify my earlier point. To clarify. To clarify. My point. My point. Earlier. Earlier.
هذا المنظور ذو قيمة.
This perspective is valuable. This perspective is valuable. This perspective is valuable. The perspective. The perspective. Is valuable. Is valuable.
وجدت هذه المعلومات مفيدة جدا.
I found this information very helpful. I found this information very helpful. I found this information very helpful. I found. I found. The information. The information. Useful. Useful. Very. Very.
دعني أعيد صياغة ذلك لتوضيح الفكرة.
Let me rephrase that for clarity. Let me rephrase that for clarity. Let me rephrase that for clarity. I rephrase. I rephrase. To clarify. To clarify. To illustrate. To illustrate. The idea. The idea.
هذا مرتبط بما تحدثنا عنه سابقا.
This connects to what we talked about earlier. This connects to what we talked about earlier. This connects to what we talked about earlier. Related. Related. We talked. We talked. Earlier. Earlier.
أود أن أبرز هذا الجانب.
I'd like to highlight this aspect. I'd like to highlight this aspect. I'd like to highlight this aspect. I would. I would. Like to highlight. Like to highlight. The aspect. The aspect.
كيف يرتبط هذا بمناقشتنا؟
How does this relate to our discussion? How does this relate to our discussion? How does this relate to our discussion? How? How? Is related. Is related. To our discussion? To our discussion?
أقدر الفرصة للتحدث.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I appreciate. I appreciate. The opportunity. The opportunity. To speak. To speak.